Due to the recent request to do a 3D hand in Maya, I put together this quick tutorial. The way I'm going to show you is not the perfect way, it's not the best way, but it's something that works for me and for our methods that we have done. Outside of Maya, I have a picture of a hand. Just on my desktop, put my hand down the scanner, scanned it in, traced it out in Illustrator, saved it out as a JPEG. We're going to bring that into Maya. To do that, let's go in the front view. And in the front view, we go to View, Image Plane, Import Image. Navigate to the desktop, find that hand picture, and hit Open. Now we've got a model sheet. It's not necessary to see it in the perspective view, so I'll go to Views, Shading, Lighting, and then you'll see Show. And next, under Show, you can actually turn off the camera. Now the other thing we're going to do while we're in the perspective view, go up to View, Shading, and see where it says Wireframe. We want to work in Smooth Shade All, but we also want Wireframe Unshaded. That way we see a physical representation of the model we're going to make, plus we can see the wireframe for the amount of extrusions we're going to be working with. Now to make the hand, I'm going to go up to the word Mesh, and I find Create Polygon Tool. Hit the box next to that. I always like to hit the reset tool. That kind of wipes everything out from scratch. Make sure that limit the number of points is not selected. We don't know how many points we're actually going to need to make this hand yet, so we'll just leave that blank, and you can close that tool. Now I'm going to just start clicking down the side of the hand, and the more points you put, the more detailed your hand will be. However, you'll have more faces to work with. And I'm not too sure we're worried about too many faces, because we can smooth this when we're done. When I get to the knuckles here, I put this little gap in there, and that's going to represent the split of the fingers. And you can always adjust these points later on. Unlike 3ds Max, where you could just click on the end and it'll ask you to close the spline, we have to hit Enter. That will make this polygon a shape. Now what I want to do is go into Edit Mesh and hit Extrude, and that's going to let me go ahead and extrude this face out from here. And I'm grabbing that yellow arrow and it's pulling it out. Now by hitting G on the keyboard, that restarts the extrusion, which puts in another segment. I hit G again, and so forth. Now I'm not going to be working too much in the side view here right away, but I do want some segments here, so I have something to work with when I go to smooth this thing out. Now when I'm done, I can click off, right click and go into object mode, and you'll notice here that the entire object's a little thicker for a hand. To scale that out, I just hit the scale button, and I scale it non-uniformly in one direction until it looks about the thickness of a hand. Now most of our work can be done here in this perspective view, okay, and we'll be bouncing back and forth to ensure our fingers are actually working. Let's begin with the thumb. We go into clicking on our model, select it, right click, and go into face. Now we can try selecting the faces on that thumb there. Notice I'm having a hard time, so I typically like to come up to this paint. I click and I select the 3 faces that make up the thumb. Now we can come up into the front view, and you will see when we go to extrude, it allows us to extrude in this plane, and that's the preferred method. Now line up that extrusion here with the crease in the thumb. Use the rotate tool to kind of level that thing out a little bit, and even use the scale tool to help scale it down a little bit so it contours to the actual finger. Now I actually select that off, and that's the difficulty with working in this view. But if you scale that down, notice how I'm trying to match it so it's about the thickness of the thumb. Hit G. Now you can go ahead and extrude again. Now I'm going to make the little crease again, and I'm going to use some of these tools to kind of line it up and use the move tool to align it with the actual picture. Hit G and extrude once again. So every time you extrude, the reason why you're extruding is because there's a massive change in the way the hand goes. Using the rotate scale tool, you can go ahead and try to align this as best you can, but when you're done, hit G, and that'll allow you to extrude yet again. The tip of the finger is definitely smaller than the rest of the hand, so using the scale tool is going to allow you to put a little taper on the end there. And again, we're just jumping back to the move tool and adjusting that. Now again, we're not looking for the smoothest, because we're going to smooth this when we're done. But as you notice now, I have something to work with here in the thumb view. Let's do that with the other hands. I can come up in here, take my paint tool, 1, 2, 3. So now what we've got here is these parts that are sticking out, protruding out, and all I have to do is go back to Edit Mesh, Extrude, and you see it's trying to go back to this part here, where if I go back to the selection, and I had both selected, that's why. You click off and click back on your selection. Now only those faces can be extruded. So if you do like I do sometimes, you accidentally goof that up. So I take that in the front view and I line it up with the finger. And then of course I hit G to start a new extrusion. I twist that around a little bit, make it so it fits. And I keep doing the extrusion until I get the entire finger done. Go to G again. Extrude that out. Do a little bit of rotate. And a little bit of scale. The fingers do get smaller towards the back. Alright. Now I'm not going to complete the whole hand. I'm going to hit G again. I'm just going to finish up this last finger. And then, of course, I'm going to let you go ahead with what you've learned here and complete the entire hand. Just doing the same thing with all the other fingers. But just remember that you are scaling and moving, and extruding is all you're really doing. And depending on how many times you extrude, that will give you more detail in the hand. Again, I'm hitting G on the keyboard, extrude one more time, and do a little scale there, just to taper off the end of the finger. Okay? So, that's just a quick rundown on how to start a hand, okay, which is going to be useful. Make sure you have the creases in there because that's where the fingers are going to bend when you animate this thing. When you're all done, the final step is to kind of influence the smooth. And I can do that by coming in to the faces on the top and the bottom of the hand and scaling them smaller than the actual hand. And let me demonstrate. If I take my paint tool and I go and I paint all the faces along this side of the hand, okay, and I also hold Shift and select the face on the hand. If you do that, you can go ahead and hit Scale, and you'll notice that you're slightly tapering the outside of your hand. You want to do that on the back side as well. And that'll slowly taper off and kind of influence how your hand smooths when you apply the smooth command. And to do that, you just go to Edit Mesh, or I'm sorry, go to Mesh, Smooth, and that smooths it out. Okay? So that's just a quick tutorial on how to make a hand. Good luck with it, and email me if you have any questions.